Now let us see more about Jenkins. As usual, what is Jenkins? Jenkins is a self-contained open source automation server which can be used to automate all sorts of tasks related to building, testing, and delivering or deploying software. Jenkins can be installed through native system packages. So we have seen a one way, or we can use a Docker or even run standalone by any machine with a Java runtime environment JRE installed. In our previous exercise, we have used native system packages, basically native system packages of Ubuntu. So you can do it for CentOS, you can do it for any other systems also, as well as you can use a Docker also. So credentials stored in Jenkins can be used. So using credentials, there are numerous third party sites and applications that can interact with Jenkins. For example, artifact repositories, cloud based storage systems and services, and so on, so forth. A system administrator of such an application can configure credentials in the application for dedicated use by Jenkins. This would typically be done to lock down areas of the application's functionality available to Jenkins. Usually, by applying access controls to these credentials, once a Jenkins manager, that is, Jenkins user who administers a Jenkins site, adds or configures these credentials in Jenkins, the credentials can be used by pipeline projects to interact with the third party applications. So, where do we store credentials? I'm gonna show you that. Let's get into manage Jenkins, and inside the manage Jenkins, you come to the security section. You see that? Security section. I will zoom it a bit. Yeah, I hope it's fine for you. Yeah, it's okay. Let me scroll a bit up. Fine. I zoomed it a bit. I think it's fine for you. Yeah. So security, you come to your global configure global security. Secure Jenkins, define who is allowed to access or use the system. This is configuring the global security. Whereas if you come to managing credentials, here you will find the store scoped to Jenkins. So here if you click on, you can add your credentials. So what happens when you add credentials? So a systems administrators of such an application can configure credentials in the application for dedicated use by Jenkins. This would typically be done to lock down areas of the application's functionality available to Jenkins, usually by applying access to controls to these credentials. Once a Jenkins manager adds credentials or configure the credentials in a different section, here it is, configures the credentials, these credentials in Jenkins, the credential can be used by pipeline projects to interact with these third party applications. So that's the main purpose of this storing credential storing credentials in Jenkins. So credential stored in Jenkins can also be used for anywhere. This is anywhere applicable throughout Jenkins. For that, you have to look for the global credentials. Let me show you. Yeah, this is one global credential. You see that here, by a specific pipeline, project, or item. So when you store this in your when you store any third party software that was installed in another server, or any third party software that is hosted by the somebody else, if you want to use that application, you have to store the credentials of it. So you have, if you go for global configuration, so that means the global credentials, that means it is applicable anywhere throughout the Jenkins. You can use it for any pipeline, you can do any task. Or else there is another way of attaching the credentials that is only specific to the project or an item. So that is also a possible. Okay, this is managed credential specific to the project. Here, configure global security. Once you configure it global security, if you use a global credentials here, so it's applicable throughout the Jenkins. So Jenkins can store the following types of credentials. What are those? Secret text. What is secret text? Secret text is nothing but a token, such as an API token. So you might have known about API tokens, or else you might have heard about API tokens. If you haven't, I'm going to show you how it looks in Postman. Okay, in Postman tutorials, I'm going to show that. Okay, so secret text is nothing but a simple API token. So even if you go to the GitHub, you can generate your GitHub personal access token, or for the Nexus repository, you can create your token. So that we will do in our mega project. How to get this? So in our mega projects, we gonna cover almost all types of credentials. Okay, the first one is secret text. It's nothing but API token. Then username and password. Everybody might should know this, because they might have been using this for years and years. If not for the software application, at least for the Facebook and Facebook and Insta and some other applications. So username and password, which could be handled as a separate components, or as a colon separated string in the format, such as username colon password. Then we have secret file, which is essentially secret content in a file. Then SSH, username with a private key. So here, and we have to create an SSH, private public key pair, and the public key pair will come into the Jenkins, and private key will be stored in the server, in that application server. Then we have certificate. So a, a PKCS pound 12 certificate file and optional password are used. So, and then you can have one more thing called Docker host authentication, host certificate authentication credentials. This is one example. So a PKCS certificate file and optional password, or Docker host certificate authentication credentials can also be used. These are different types, however. So now let's look into security section itself. A security section consists of 4 items in it. Configure global security, manage credentials, configure credential providers and manage users. We have seen, we have dwelled into each item in our previous session, so I'm not gonna go deep into this security section at this moment. So then add the credentials themselves into the appropriate fields uh, for your chosen credential type. For secret text, as I have told you, copy the secret text and paste it into the secret field. So how does it work? See, we have seen various types of credentials. Let me show you that, and then we will discuss how can they be accessed. So let me go to manage credential and click on global, and come here on a right section. You see this button, a soft button, and click on add credential. So now you can see what all types we have. Let us look into that. The first type is username with password, so which could be handled by most of the people. So if I click on username with password, so what all information we have to provide? Scope. So I would go with the global. See here, either it's a global or system. System means only for this Jenkins, and some nodes we have to provide which node you want to use. I would go with the global. Then here I'm going to provide username, that is, and treat username as secret. That's okay, it's not required. And password and ID and description and create. That's it. It's been created. Username with password and global cred and description. So this is one. And the second one, let's get into the slide again. So the first one we have seen is a secret file, and username and password we have mentioned. And the third one is secret file. First one is secret text and then secret file. First let's look into the secret text, and then we'll come to the secret file. So now let me select secret text. You see that initial column should be selected is a scope of the project, and then secret text should be pasted here. Secret text should be pasted here. Then as usual, ID and description, and click on create. That's it. It will be created. Then okay, so let me click on here. Let me add credentials, and let's look into secret file now. For secret file, that's it. This is the way. Scope, and you have to choose a file, upload the file, and give ID, description, and click on create. It will be created. Then SSH, username with private key. Specify the credentials, username, private key, and is optional. So specifying that is optional. So let's look into that. Add credentials. Let me select SSH, username and private key. So here is the global scope, and you can find that ID. You give the ID name and then description name and mention the username. Then comes the most important section. So here you have to copy the private key, enter directly. Either you can store the value by adding this. Here you have to enter the add. Let me click on add. So the space has been opened, and here you paste it. Okay, your private key should be pasted here. Then here you can mention the passphrase, uh, any any sentence or any word that you want to use it as a passphrase, that you can use, and you can click on create. That's how you can create your SSH username, SSH key. So then the final one is Docker host certification authentication. So for this, copy and paste the appropriate details into the client key, client certificate, and server CA certificate field. So let me get back to this and then let's look into that. So let me click on add credential. So now what else we left? We left with the certificate. You click on the certificate, then it's asking scope. You give the scope, and after that you have option upload PKCS 12 certificate. If you click on this, it asks, you can choose file and you can select that. Okay, then here you can give password and then ID, description, and create. And one more thing that I would like to show you here is GitHub app. So here give the ID, description, app ID, and key, and you have to add and click and advanced. If you want to give more information, give the name of the owner and click on test connection, so that it will show the connection. It will establish a connection and it will show you whether it's working or not, and then click on create to create that. So this is all about using credential security in Jenkins. So if you follow this, you can securely connect with Jenkins and you will have a very fantastic experience on Jenkins. So then let's look into how can a search box be used effectively in Jenkins. Every page in Jenkins has a search box on its top right that lets you get to your destination as quickly as possible without multiple clicks. So example, you can see that on your screen and I'll show you also. For example, if you type foo and pound symbol 53 console, you will be directly taken to the console output page of the foo and that job build number 53. If you have xyz view, then just type xyz and it will take you there to get to that view. The search box comes with auto completion to assist you. That's the one more additional feature that's attached with the search box. So the search box is also context sensitive. If you already somewhere in the foo job, perhaps you are looking at the another build, then you can just type a pound symbol 53 console instead of foo pound symbol 53 console. If you are already somewhere in the foo, then you just type console to get to the same page. So, and most important thing, it's case sensitive. It is case insensitive search. If you want the search box to be case sensitive, go to your profile configuration page, Jenkins user, and then profile configure and activate the case insensitive search option. Please note that case insensitive search is not available for anonymous not logged in users. Okay, it is only for the main user and who are logged into the system. Then you will get the open search support. The search box feature is also exposed to the browser through open search, so you can install this search and auto completion feature to your browser search box. This would further reduce the overhead it takes for you to visit a particular page in the Jenkins. For example, in Firefox, you can add the Jenkins search to your browser's search engine via the drop down on the right of the address bar. Here it is. From here you can do that. You can see on the screen. I hope it's clear. It's visible. Okay, let me get back to the manage Jenkins and come to the dashboard, and you can see that the search option here on top exactly at the center, it's supposed to be on right, but it is in zoomed in version, so that's the reason. So but normally it's on right. You see that it's exactly on right most, but let me zoom it more so it will come to the center. That's fine. So now I would say security, because I haven't built any pipelines or any pipes and any builds, so it won't get anything at this moment. So nothing is there. So nothing seems to match because nothing is there. We haven't built anything. Okay. So let's use this after building some pipelines. Not some. We are going to build so many pipelines. Once it is built, then we will look into this. Till that time, you can get to know that here we have a search button, and you can use, yeah, you see, you are the search box and case sensitive. How can we use that? It's a complete information it's providing. So let me get back to my Jenkins page and go back to the dashboard. And that for now, it's more than enough. So let's look into the search button again in our, while we are working on actual projects or actual tutorials.